morning, everyone. Good to see you all today. Welcome to the room. Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, October 21st, 2025. The morning session, a good thrust reversal has now developed in the ES. The NQ didn't quite get one. It just missed. It looked like it might have gotten almost a perfect double bottom, kind of turnaround, tweezer bottom there. And then over here, extreme reversal. RTY was the first to bounce, the first to give a really good bounce. And at that moment, ES was just developing that early thrust reversal. And that was about 10, 12, 13 minutes into the hour. And it's already gone outside bar up. That was a very quick move. I know sometimes it develops really quickly, but that's what you want in the hourly time frame. And then you have the overnight low. That's your overnight low. And we mentioned in the pre-market video and this morning we still may have new lows below the overnight low. And once we get that new low, there could be an opportunity for bulls to defend. And now you're trying to look for a push back to the overnight high and then get a new high for the day. That'd be the check mark portion of the day there. But even if you're just in it for the short-term opportunity, thrust reversal right there. That's your developing thrust reversal, and it's already played out to the previous bar high. Usually if you're playing an early thrust, you at least want to get to the previous bar's mid. And then once you get through the mid, then that opens up the high. It's just like PivotBoss pivots. This is literally the PivotBoss pivots on a bar-by-bar basis, right? You have a high range bar move here. That's your low. You reject the low. You return to the mid. If you push through the mid, you return to the high. In the best case scenario for that style play. So it's already played out, and we're 25 minutes into the hour. So in 12 minutes, it went from here to there and back. That was a pretty quick move. Obviously, again, there could be more there, but you never know how quickly that might play out. This was just a very dynamic bounce at that moment. Meanwhile, RTY led with the bounce early. I mean, that was a tremendous move right there, and it happened before the switch of time. Whereas, so RTY was bouncing about here time-wise. ES didn't get the low till time-wise here. So it was a big differential in bounce. And that's how sometimes you can use one that's bouncing to gauge the other at, on that thrust reversal signal. So a quick little move there. But I don't think by all means that's it for the day here. These bounces, especially in the NQ, doesn't look particularly strong. We're still in a trading range type of mode at the moment with the ADR for the day very low. Anytime you're at 23% of average range heading into the RTH Open and then after the RTH Open, that's pretty narrow. I mean, we did widen the range here, and we're still at 23% of ADR here for the ES. After the RTH Open. That's really narrow. So when that's the case, you can literally go in both directions multiple times because it could be a digestive day. Now, if this starts to fail at the previous week's high, that's where things can get really bearish. So early on, the thought was, okay, if we come back and hit a low, we could bounce, and that's okay that we're below the previous week's high. That's the discount. But if we give up that previous week's high up here after doing this kind of behavior, that's going to be pretty significant. The next level down will be either the close or the mid, and it'll be the close for the ES for 3 of the 4. Actually, all of them. So that's your previous week's high. If you fail here, that's the potential, that dot. If you fail here, that dot. And if you fail there, that dot right there. Now this one looks quite a bit different. This one has 47,000 it's contending with for the first time. We're at some wild areas for all of these markets. They all look different. So whichever market you are going to engage, you know, just be hyper focused on that market for a moment, just because they're all giving different look and feels. But for the most part, to me, it looks more bearish. So even with the YM busting through 47K, 47K is very significant level, and that high range bar could lead to an intra-bar reversal. We may switch that one to a 15-minute chart here because of how dynamic the reversals were last week. Maybe the 15-minute chart is showing something here, and this is what the 15-minute chart is showing at the moment. It's showing an early wick development back to the midpoint of the bar. That's a pretty good bar. And again, 47K, the big level. That's this level here. So this one's showing early reversals, and here's the first signal right there. That's your wick reversal flash. So that tells you have a wide range bar already, and now you're throwing off your first initial signal here for that bar. We are about to finish the time here, so if we drop a little bit lower, that signal will flash, but nonetheless, it's a pretty good reversal at the moment. We're still above 47K. Right here, we've already given back that outside bar, and it's now gone failed new high back down. With this bit of a compression box here, are we about to drop here? Same thing over here. After a good thrust reversal and rally, it's now back down right now with half the hour still to go. What if we start to drop further here? Are we about to give it up as well? And then the early rally here to begin the hour in RTY also fizzling out after hitting VWAP right now from below. Does that make a move back to the previous close down below? So at the moment, there's a lot of different look and feel for each of the various charts, but they all kind of amount to sell side at the moment. Sell side doesn't look I mean, right now it tried to move. It had a great reaction on the intraday, and you're starting to see an initial pullback. So just be mindful of the risk at the moment. This is a super high volatility period of time, which is good, but it can cut both ways if you're not careful. So definitely mind your risk. Definitely play to quicker T1s, and then allow the second, third, or fourth legs of the trade work themselves out to let's see here, work themselves out to higher targets. So this is what we're looking at right now. And now keep in mind, if today I'm saying it looks a little more bearish at the moment, it's still within an upward trending framework. If we're taking day one rejection here Friday, and then we were looking for strength to begin the week, that's what we were looking for Friday afternoon, Friday morning really, but Friday afternoon as well. We got that early move to the upside, and we held gains, and it became a great checkmark continuation. For today, we were looking for a similar move. And, you know, the pullback and the defense and go. And so far, that's still the case here for the YM. Everyone looks a little different at the moment. But even if that's the high right now for the YM, and we swing back to the low, we likely swing right back up, and it becomes a digestive day. Now, just yesterday I said I didn't think it would be a digestive day just because we've been in a high volatility range. There's a lot of volatility day over day ever since 2 Fridays ago. So I didn't think we would just sit there and just develop a low range day. But anything can happen, and so far that's happening at the moment. That looks digestive, but with an upward bias. And that can lead to a 2-day compression now for tomorrow. Outside day down, outside day up, both directions. 2-day range, 3. If this is going to continue higher in an aggressive pace, failed new low tomorrow and go. because we're still flowing to the upside. So whatever low today is, especially if it's a low range day, failed new low tomorrow and go. So those are some things that we can look for ahead, but it depends on how we finish out. But right now the YM looks the most bullish from that perspective, but we also know 47K, excuse me, 47K is a big time level. That's a big time level. And why? Because this thing trades in 2,000 point increments. And the last big time level was 45K. And that low was precisely 45K that day. And it bounced. And I said, huh, that's suspicious. I think we're going to break to the downside. Instead, we didn't. And then we broke to the upside and was like, oh, all right, here we go. And there's 47K right here. 45 to 47 right there. 2,000 point move. And ever since now, it's stayed within this 45 to 47,000 point distribution, as it should. But in order to get to 49, 48 and 49, you have to find acceptance beyond 47. You can't mess around like it did back here, or that gets faded. Or over here and it got rejected. What's it going to be this time around? So 47K, very, very important for the YM. And even then, this zone is still going to be a little bit worrisome here because we've had this expanding style range that continues to develop in these markets. So still an upward bias. The thing about these markets that make me a little bit more uneasy when you have this volatility at the highs, at all-time highs, is just there's so much more risk now involved, especially with beginning new positions. But additionally, we haven't had the discount enough to really be confident in some good moves. We just have to rely on the trend continuing. For example, down here with that volatility, it was much more volatility, but at the same time, we knew where the zones were for the reversal and where the targets were afterward. But up here, we're in la-la land right now, and you just either have to trust the trend or we're still in a range and just kind of continue to mind your risk. So right now, we're right at that zone where we could see this thing extend, but we're in a high volatility market due to headline risk, which can introduce, you know, variables at moments of time where you're least expecting it. You know, usually we have pockets of volatility around the economic calendar or Fed speak or whatever, but now we have a Truth Social post regarding tariff and China and things like that, and that can lead to this type of volatility until it shakes out. But one thing we've noted is that I believe the president wants this thing to go up and to the right. So, you know, he was very precise that day in saying, hey, this is happening, but also there'll be a little bit of short-term pain here, but we'll come back. You know, very upfront on that Truth Social post, although it was very aggressive verbiage. But this is, you know, he doesn't want this thing to do that. This is all negotiating for getting this thing going up and to the right. So ultimately, I think this thing is up and to the right. It's just the current short-term volatility. But man, everything's still, the factors are still pointing up, generally speaking. What's not great is some of the super overvalued stocks right now, especially in some of the big groups that we follow. But, you know, again, like I said before, things can get sillier in terms of pricing before they correct. But man, we've had some big time moves. I mean, just look at the ETFs for some of these, and now you're starting to see the corrections here develop. This is, let's turn this off right now on the weekly bands. This is NLR, the ETF for nuclear, and we've had a pretty good discount from the recent highs already. If we turn the bands on again, but do it for the year, it looks like this, where it's been in an upward price discovery phase the entire way. And right now might be the first time where this thing turns from golden back into perhaps a red bar, because we're dropping back into the range below. So this is going to be interesting to see. Do we bounce again off this level as we have, which is customary in an uptrend, or do we fail back down? Here's SMR. Big time rotation back down. And again, SMR was tremendous because last week we were seeing awesome signals here in our thrust reversal pro signals during thrust reversal pro week for masters, and JP was posting these signals here, and man did they play out well, and posted this one mid development, and did it play out ever well right there. And that happened to be right around those highs. That's about the 56 zone. And you look at the daily chart now, and that was them. And at the same time, you see the thrust reversal cell develop here on the daily time frame as well, and we've been down ever since. So those were the earliest signals there, and they were thrust reversal pro signals. So it was very, very timely. I always say kind of lucky there that we were seeing it at the right time. But that failed high here would tend to point you to the other side of the range. And then you have kind of a midline as well, wherever that midline is. Maybe it's here, 42.50. Let's see, that's 30, it's 55, 42.50 right there. So to fall below the midline would now suggest maybe there is a shot to come into the bottom end of the trading range. You have a rising year-to-date, rising yearly VWAP. That will be interesting to see how the market responds there. Like I said before, these are tremendous, but man, have they increased in value tremendously. It's just beyond expectations here how much this thing has gone. So are we starting to get that big time correction? Here's what it looks like in Ochoa. Big rejection at the highs. Big failure here. This is a gap and drop in Ochoa as the YM pushes and climbs to new highs right now. Big strong move in the YM. NNE, big correction from 60 to 44. So already a 25% correction in 5 days. Centris, we talked about Lightbridge yesterday, and man, did it ever fail today with the weakness of this group. Mentioned that this could be a tremendous opportunity yesterday. Now this is important here too. Let's go back to the here. So we talked about Lightbridge yesterday. LTBR. If this group was about to rally, this was going to be a tremendous opportunity here. Okay, so remember this great move right here, and then you have that MGR signal. We talked about how that can be a great day trade initially, and if they close as strong, it can be a swing opportunity. And you can be in at the end of the day, but we talked about the retest, the potential retest the next morning and go. If the retest is the midpoint here, right, as a starting point, and this is the close, you can't gap down and open just above the mid for a retest entry. You need more of a push down into the level so that then it's defended and go. If you gap down and you're opening just above the midpoint, that's going to put pressure on the mid, and you're likely dropping through that low. So it's likely a no-go on the entry just by way of the open being too close to the mid. And that's the case for any kind of entry. If you're looking at, say, a midpoint entry here, that tends to be a great entry, pull back and bounce. But if the open price of whatever you're looking at is too close to that midpoint, it's probably going to overwhelm the mid. And in that case, it's probably good to flip short term if you actually want to be aggressive about it and sell the mid, because you're 9 times out of 10 going to take out the low. So that's one of these cases where you have you know, everything in line like we talked about yesterday, and then you wait for the open, but the sentiment has shifted overnight or pre-market. The sentiment has shifted, and now we're headed back down, and we're opening with too close of an open near our trigger zone for the entry, whatever that trigger zone might be. If the open is too close to it or on top of it, it's probably a no-go because it's going to ice through that level. So just wanted to make that clear there. Now gold is getting destroyed, y'all. Gold is getting destroyed. It is down 5.5%, and it has wiped out the 4,200 level. I did not see that coming, but it just did it, and the retest from underneath 4,200 was vicious, and this thing is dropping hard. Look at gold right now just getting destroyed. This thing very aggressive. Wow. That's quite the bar right there. Yeah, that's pretty aggressive, that move. I mean, you don't see something like that every day in terms of that kind of range. Oops. Didn't mean to do that. Wow. Here's what it looks like in Thinkorswim there. Big time drop here. Looks like it wants to go for a stop run day, which means it's going 7% lower, maybe 8. It's got to really drop here. We talked about that day specifically and how it looked different than this day, but I wouldn't short it. You know, you just got to wait. But then when we looked at it the next day, it looked the case. It did look like that was a key range, and we now have a wide-ranging key range of 200 points. And we could be back and forth. But this is a violation of that in a big way. This is a massive event. It's a 285 point day, 290 and counting. This is 260% of ADR in an increased volatility market. This is 270% of ADR of a high volatility market, the highest ADRs probably ever that I've seen in gold. The current 10-period average is 136 points. 136 points. This market doesn't even hit 136 points usually. That's 136 right here. Look at that. It's averaging that right now, and it barely can touch it on its biggest days. This is a tremendous meltdown. The top is in. I was pretty adamant about it that day, and now obviously after we saw what yesterday did, and it did create that large key range, I was pretty confident the high was in for there. But now the way it's gunning it to the downside, this is a massive meltdown, pun intended. And we've seen the expansion from 3,000 to 3,500, or that compression and the expansion from it here. That's the measured move. The next measured move was going to be to 4,500, but we're 102 points shy of that and now dropping. That's fine. That's a big time move. And that's a good question. When you get a bar like that, does that always signal the end of a trend? So usually when you get a bar like that, to me, I'll call it a local top, and sometimes I'll call it the high. Like that's the high. That's it. A local top would suggest that it's clearly the high for right now, but we could easily over the next day or so bounce back and form a key range, and then that would suggest that a high could be in play shortly thereafter. It's clearly the high for now as this thing moves on, and that's a concept that we talked about with the ES. Right here. So right there on that day, it was like, ooh, that's a day one high. It's a good day one high for the next 1 to 5 days or so. We got the 2-day pullback, and it was like, okay, Monday we should be looking for a pushback because now we'll go get that high right here. So depending on how, if it's able to make this drop quick, and then the resulting bounce gets you quickly back to the midpoint for a key range, that's when you could actually go get the high again. But if it cannot, that's where things get very bearish, and then yeah, you've put in a high. The other thing I'll say is that, which was my next point anyway, which was a perfect timing on your question, was, you know, again, right here, that's your 500 here, and that's 400. 4,000 is still tremendous market structure. It could drop into 4,000. We could hit 4,500, and now we're trading in a 4,000, 4,500 range as market structure. We've left this market structure untouched, and then this is your prior. So 4,400 as a key level is going to be important here. Sorry, 4,000. I don't know why I called it 4,400. 4,000 here is going to be a key level. 3,500. 3,000, and it's 500 point distribution here. It missed the other one up here, and sometimes when it misses it, it comes down here and then it goes and gets it, and then maybe we're in here. So yes, that's a massive, massive high that puts in the top for now, but that doesn't mean we do this, and that's what I'll usually say. I don't think we're going to melt down. This is tremendously strong, and now any weakness is from a massive position of strength. So whatever pullback we get has a better shot at becoming a distribution up here or some sort of range, new market structure. And then at some point we may have to fill in this market structure, and then we have that previous here. So hopefully that helps a little bit. It does signal the end of a move for now, but depending on how we bounce back from this day here, we could get a new high right away, but it's still pretty much the top for now. Yeah, this right here, 300 points of range, and now maybe the low is in for the day. Wow, I would have never thought. And like I said, this is 270% of ADR of the highest ADR reading ever. And it's also another 200% of ADR day. So when you get a 200% of ADR day, it tends to be a blunt end to a move, at least for now. Wow. Wow, wow. Big time movement here. Where's my... Yeah, this is it right here. So here's the ADR with that 200% day. This was your other 200% day. So that's what we mentioned that day, is 200% of ADR. That tends to be an indication of stopping a move. Over here, when you have 200% of ADR that coincides with a breakout level, it can be a transition move. You get the best of both worlds. One starts the move, one ends it. And then this is the even bigger 200% of ADR day on a massive meltdown day. But we've now hit a perfectly round 300 points in range. 300. This is what was so crazy about this day. That was 200 points of range. And I showed yesterday how you go back in time here. This is also 200 points of range. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 months inside 200 points of range. That's why the other day I was like, wow, Friday, it was incredible that that was a 200 point day when we have spent months in entire 2 point ranges. 1, 2, 3, 4.5 months. And now today's a 300 point day? That's incredible. Like, how can that not be just a smack in the face? Like, that's what I say. Sometimes it's like a slap your mama rejection. You know what I mean? Like that's how bad it is. It's like this is slapping your mama in the face. It's so bad. So that's a big time deal. And right here it really shows it. But I love how this indicator now can help. You know, hey, that's a 200% of ADR day. That's a massive significant outlier event, and it's happening at the breakout point. And look at the markup phase, and look at how it behaved off the 8-period average. See that 8-period average? By the way, I do my moving averages by fib numbers. This is an 8-period. That's a 21. Sorry, 21. I forgot if I had a 13. 21, 34, 55. And I just like the way they flow. I know it's a little different than others. Some people do the standard 10, 20, 30, 50, whatever. Others pick your one. I really like the 8. I make it yellow or gold in here so you can really see it stand out, because when you get into an intense trend, it rules the trend. Just that alone rules the trend in a big way. And we're giving that area up, and we're now in here. So after you had so much elongation, yes, technically you're inside the bullish Pima trigger zone now, but that's not the right buy opportunity. This is at the end of a move. This is not the zone usually that you would try to buy the dip after such a big move. It's already been happening in that zone just slightly. But that's a big time average. Now, for those of you that have been following the 3i Atlas, have you? 3i Atlas. That's the object that's coming towards us, I guess. It just flew past Mars, right? I think it did. And it's an object. Now, usually those objects are big space rocks. But remember, Avi Loeb came out right away and said this might be, you know, an alien ship or something right now. An alien ship coming our way. And it's so funny. It's like, how do you get that so quickly? What's going on here? I mean, how do you get that so quickly from that data? But, you know, it is displaying weird behavior now. Normally a comet would have like a tail behind it. This thing has an aura in front of it. Like, what is that? There's other anomalous things that you can look at. Now, I haven't verified this fully here, but I heard a news item here, and we'll get to these markets right now as they make a great move to the upside. The point, I'll make it very fast and we'll get to the charts, is they just saw, or they just heard or received that it is emitting signals, and the signals are Fibonacci sequences. Fibonacci sequences being emitted from this object, 3i Atlas. And it was repeating like 8, 13, 5, 8, 13, 5, and it just kept repeating like a Fibonacci sequence over and over. So even the aliens use the 8-period Pima, by the way. That's my point right now. But that space rock coming at us doesn't look so much like a space rock now. And now two different telescopes, one in Chile and one in India, both confirmed and saw or received those signals. Again, I haven't cross-verified this, but that's some early word. And I thought that was very interesting, the Fibonacci sequence, which again is seen in nature. in all of nature, even the spiral galaxy, the Milky Way or any spiral galaxy, a seashell. And that's, you know, again, using it in the market. That's why a lot of folks really like it in the market. But that's it. We knew that 8 Pima was out of this world. So we knew it. It stands out. 3i Atlas here also likes the 8, 13, and 5. But anyways, I thought that was very interesting. So that thing's getting really interesting. And also, it already flew past Mars. And there's a bunch of footage of it, but I don't think we have received that footage because of the government shutdown. And that's convenient, by the way. So interesting stuff there. Okay, let's take a look at the charts over here, because again, look at that big time push to the upside. I just got through saying how bearish it was, but I also got through saying how volatile it is as well. This thing can go back and forth to new highs and new lows when you're trading 24% of ADR. When you're trading 24% of ADR, we can continue to go back and forth in a heavy way. We still have an overall upward bias from the weekly perspective. If you weren't around yesterday morning, man, these thrusts right here have really picked up this hour. Now, before the thrust reversal pro signals, obviously we have the thrust right here, your regular one, that pink one. In order to really confirm before, we overlaid the PivotBoss squat bar indicator, or the PivotBoss paint squats. The squat paint bars, if I could speak correctly here this morning. And that right there turning green. This one right here turning green. And it'll overlay on anything, signal or not. But if you have a signal and it overlays and it starts to get stronger, that's a very good indication of a very strong move right now. So it did ultimately shake out to the upside. Yesterday we mentioned if we hit 67.60, expect an 80-point day. That was my initial thought. Now today, we're falling well short of that. There's 27.5 points today. But at least the precision is there on this one. We also talked about what if we pull back to about 25.2? What does that look like here for the upside move? We also mentioned 46.8. But because yesterday was a pretty big push, we weren't necessarily expecting midpoint pullbacks. We're looking for something a little bit more shallow. But this one right here did pull back pretty heavy before bouncing back. So these markets right now showing a lot of back and forth. This is what I mentioned a bit earlier. It's a little volatile here, but YM really opening things up. That's going to be something to keep an eye on. So gold melting down in a big way. May have found the low after a 300-point range. That low might be in for the day. I wanted to talk XRP because XRP, by the way, silver down 7% as well. Big time push. XRP looking really good. Earlier I didn't get to talk about XRP as much in the pre-market video. Maybe I'll incorporate it here a little bit. But the thing about that one I mentioned earlier, XRP finding an early low, it's on the heels of ETH finding that low and Bitcoin both finding a low at 108. But that right there, look at that rejection developing here. This is a really good crypto opportunity at the moment developing. Pick your opportunity, you know, in terms of which crypto you want to be in on. Let's see here. I want to bring up XRP, no, ETH. ETH right here. So that's ETH here with a failed new low and a bounce off the lows to the upside. Yesterday we talked about this key range right here from the high to the low. We need to make it to 42.42. So right now that failed new low that developed here is really solid. I mentioned pre-market video we needed to get above 39.25 or 39.50 to really open up the upside here. And there's a shot to go outside up. We can hit 4,100 here today. We're at 40.23 at the moment. 40.18, 40.16 half. 15s, you can kind of see it moving at the moment. This is looking like a pretty solid failed new low after a day one rejection at an edge. And that would suggest again that we have a shot. So look at this right here. That's your mid. So previous quarter's midpoint is right here. Very close to it. Failed new low. Digestive day. We might be able to go outside up today and then carry on to 42.42 and get the key range. If we get this key range, we're set in a big way for long-term price action. Whether it's 5,900 or 2,570, we got some big time spread here that could be in play based off of that key range. So trying to get that 42.42. Good strong reversal. Look at Bitcoin here. Bitcoin with the wick reversal developing, but almost a perfect double bottom there. I think it just missed the lows maybe by a hair. Let's see, the low 690 and the low was 705. 15 points, which is incredible when you're talking 108,000 bucks here. That's now at a new high after a low, rejection at the quarterly low, and we need this midpoint to cement that key range. So right now everything's focused on getting that move right there. That's 115,490. 115,490, that is a target that could be hit by the end of the week. And if so, we have ourselves a new key range. That key range will have us set up for a 150,000 target down the road, or an 80,000 point target, or both. Like I said, when you get these massive key ranges, you can get that energy and you can do both, or you can go get one, or you can go get the other. If you go get the downside one, ultimately, I feel like you'll go get the upside one. Obviously, if you go get the upside one, you don't tend to go down and get that major downside one. That would be a massive crushing move. So this is going to be big. But right now, everything pointing to the upside. I would say intraday, buy the dips until proven otherwise with an upward bias into that 115,490. Now, let's move our attention real quickly to XRP. XRP doing really, really good here. Off these lows. This is your prior quarter low right here, so it just missed the previous quarter low, which was hit on the first day of the quarter. Way up here, you drop through, you come all the way down, and now you're bouncing here. That was a little doji bar, nice little gap and run yesterday. Today, little pullback, and like we said, if it can find its way back up here, like the others, this thing could follow through as well. I haven't marked a key range in this one here, so I'm going to do it in here real quickly and you all can follow along on this. But that high to that low back to the midpoint, and that's where this one is likely headed here. Let's grab, I'm going to do that tool again. Here, 684. All right, let's just see what that high is. 1585, the low. So that's 5 higher than it needs to be. This should be 35. There we go. All right, so we need 2.6835 to get that key range. Now, here's why I like these trades so much. When you do have an impulse move like this, say you get that strong high, move, strong day one low, and then you bounce back, there's a super high odds you go get the midpoint of that range. Like the very high odds. 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 that we mark up. I mean, usually we're pretty good about finding impulse moves. That was a good impulse move out of the out of ETH and BTC. This one's not bad either. 2.6835. Now here's what I like about this one as well, is it gives us the targets down the road. So if that's our key range, again, we got to get that midpoint here soon. Like, we can't get that midpoint 2 weeks from now. We can't go sideways and then hit the midpoint. You get a strong high, you get a strong low on an impulse move. You want that midpoint quick. You want it to bounce back quickly, because that says I am now a new key range. And now once it does that, we could use that range here to forecast up the target. Look at the target right there, 4.1080. That means we're looking at a 2.05 entry for a double. 2.05 from that 4.1080. And when you have a wide key range and you get the midpoint, that lower 25% level can tend to be the best entry on the board. So you have a wide key range, it drops into the 25, it can tend to be the best entry, and then you work your way up to here, bust your way through there, and hit the 100% target. So that entry lines up with the $2 or 205 for an eventual double to 4. So that doesn't mean we get there right now. Again, we got to go get this midpoint first. So in the meantime, we're going up to here. We'll see what happens in here, but if we come down into that point, that could be a tremendous entry at some point into the future. We'll see when. Oftentimes what I love is for price to bounce, and then you're kind of in that middle 50% for a bit, and then you drop, lower low failure, back to the midpoint, and then once you start pushing through, now you're kind of home free for that move there. So if I had to draw up a perfect blueprint, it might be this. So we need to go get the mid, go beyond it a little bit, come in, trade in here, drop, and go, which could be great for a November entry. You know, if it's something like that plays out, we'll see. But that's why I love key ranges as well, because we're able to now plan out a potential opportunity. We're able to plan it out because we have a key range. We haven't even developed the key range yet, and we already have a potential double lined up. We just need to go get that mid. And if we do go get this level, definitely will be a part of that opportunity to see if we can go get that double. If I do double, I'm not sure if I hold, like sell half and free trade it. I think I'll double and try to double again. We'll see. See how greedy we get here. But crypto season is upon us here. We've had some tremendous moves out of the Bitcoin miners, but the actual coins haven't done as much lately, and instead they've given discounts, and those discounts could lead to bigger opportunities down the way. So got to go get that midpoint. Right now, it's a short-term opportunity. Again, if you're not used to buying crypto, I mean, Robinhood makes it easy too. You go to Robinhood, you can buy XRP just like you buy a stock. If you got Coinbase, you can do it. If you have anything else in between, you can also, that's the future, you can go to the ETF like we talked about before. And an ETF is a great way to do it. So here, let's look at XRPI. And XRPI is one of the ETFs. I know there's multiple. I was trying to find if, I don't think there's an iShares version, If somebody sees an iShares version, let me know. I don't think there is one yet. So this is the one I'm looking at right now. I think there's other applications that are currently there for forthcoming ETFs, probably including iShares perhaps down the road. But this is the one we have for now, or at least I have for now. Let me know if you like another one that's better. On the ETF, you could measure the same move itself and then get your mid. And then you also see here's the low. It was going to be just below here. So that $2 level is maybe like the $12 level. And then to double it at 4 would be just beyond the previous high, and that'd be at 12 to 24 trade. So if you wanted to play along on the double opportunity for XRP, but you want to do it with the ETF, you can do the 12 to 24, and it's an ETF. You know, that's another way to go right there. Now, if you want to trade the options on it, then we may need to look at some of the other ones, because this one does not have options on this instrument yet. This one was released in, is that June or is that May? That's May. So not enough juice yet to have options on. Well, no. I'm looking at something wrong here. Let's see. I thought it did. Yes, there it is. Okay, I had a different symbol up. Yeah, so this one does have options, so good. I thought so. It's just very low. So if you wanted to trade something with options, you could do something like a long dated option here. When price hits 12, maybe you're buying the 15 out of the money call, and then it does this to 24. You know, there are multiple ways to do it, but you want to be looking out quite a bit, which could get pricey depending on the market here. So I'd probably just buy 12 to 24, to be honest. So that's XRP. I think it's developing into something nice here. I've been very patient with this one, and I shouldn't have been. Remember when I said here we had a shot to go get a target, bop. It happened literally a few days later. It moved like the next day, and I missed it because I was looking for the key range push here. Maybe that happens again this time around by waiting here, but even right now it could be a good short-term opportunity. So some thoughts on XRP. I know we haven't spent much time on that one before, but we're doing so a little bit more now as it has developed some pretty decent market structure. By the way, I need to add a good market profile here in TradingView. So I saw a question a little bit earlier, and sorry, I haven't. That's funny. I'd go for a ride on the spaceship. Sorry, I wasn't caught up right now. We do get into some alien talk every little while, especially when that missile hit that one orb thing. That was the last one. Very creative to tie in 3i Atlas in today's charts. I thought that Fibonacci sequence was incredible, and it wasn't just one off. They said it was a repeating burst, just a repeating burst over and over. So again, gotta cross check that and see. So right now we have some big time moves that have happened in our crypto group here. Just look at the miners on a whole, and it's really perplexed me. I was behind the curve. I know we saw some movement here in September, but like I said, I thought that was kind of I thought it was overdone here, especially with the lack of participation out of Bitcoin and some of the others. So this is huge. That's the Bitcoin miners ETF. You look at something like MicroStrategy, it has not participated. You look at something like Marathon, it has not participated to the extent, although it's not a bad bounce. You know, decent little move here recently, but hasn't participated compared to the ciphers of the group, the clean sparks of the group. You know what I mean? Even Hut 8 got in on the action in a big way. That thing went from $10 to $50 real fast. Hive, that thing has trouble rallying. This thing has made a move here lately, unlike anything it has seen in a while. So there's definitely been some movement here. IREN was out of control, and I think I saw a question a little bit earlier regarding Marathon, and Marathon is definitely in our group, in our crypto group. I want to say Veronica was asked about it a little bit earlier. Yeah, there you go. So what about Marathon? So this one right here, it was a great one. For a while, it had really, really good movement. We've called multiple little doubles here, back and forth, but lately, it hasn't really participated like it had before. And I feel like they took on the micro strategy approach of holding Bitcoin and becoming kind of a repository of Bitcoin, or however you term it. And that's great when Bitcoin's doing this, but then also when Bitcoin slows down, it can slow your price down if you tie it too much. I'm not sure how much they're tied to it now, but they changed their approach a bit in that way. I don't know if that's weighing them down at the moment and will reward later, but they're not behaving like a Bitcoin miner like some of the other charts we've seen. So I haven't dug in on this one as much here lately to see why the disconnect. So I need to do a little bit of that and see. I know Dwayne's usually plugged in on this one a bit. So I need to check it out a bit more, but it clearly has underperformed some of the others in this group. But now that the others have had such significant moves, like I said, like CleanSpark, for example, like Cypher, I mean, what's left for these to do other than maybe go sideways at best or pull back a bit at most? We're not going to keep that energy here to the upside that much longer. Meanwhile, maybe Marathon does have energy for some movement down the way because it didn't really do a whole lot this time around. So it's hard to tell right now with this one. It's just not moving like the others. It's still trading the same price it's been at for the last 2+ years, and all these other ones have gone way up. So I think it has a lot to do with their switch in their kind of business plan approach, perhaps, to that MicroStrategy playbook. So maybe that has something to do with it, but it's definitely been weighed down a bit, comparatively speaking. And then you have other things, like I said, like IREN, that are just exploding to the upside. New kids on the block here-ish, and it just went 10 to 70. It's like, what is happening here? So, like I said, we've been pretty much on top of this group pretty well. Last month caught me by surprise by how strong some of these were, especially compared to others and compared to Bitcoin and Ethereum. And we will see again how they move forward from here. But I think we'll get some really good opportunities down the road still. Now, BLSH, bullish. This is another one we kind of added to the group a little bit right here, but 55, 75, you got 45, you got 65, you got these little zone right here. It would be fun to get in on this one at the right spot in case it has some movement, but just really keeping it on the list as a curiosity. Circle, of course, came out hot. Once we hit 297 that morning, within 3 points of the high, we said the high's in, and they broke the chart. And that, now you can see what I meant by that. The high is in, they broke the chart, they made 3 years worth of gains in 2 weeks. So now you got to bring it all the way back and punish everyone that got in on the euphoria here, and then keep it down here for a while and then explode it down the road again. So again, I like I mentioned before on this one, I would love a fresh entry opportunity in here, but would love to see it a little bit lower here. And just kind of force me to be in on something like that. Orbs. Orbs has been crazy after that one day. What was that, a 4,000% day? Back to $8, and that still seems expensive right now for that one. Again, another curiosity. Wolf here with a big time push lately. That was a cheaper one for a long time. $2, $3, $4, $5. Now 14, from 4 to 16 recently. Canon here. This one's up. Great job for those of you that got in on this one. Again, the early thought was if you can get in between 120 and 125, 130, you have a shot to go double this one up ahead. And it did pull back a little bit, exploded to the upside, another pullback, exploded to the upside, and here today, little pullback, inside day, and then tomorrow it's going to explode to the upside again. Let's see. This thing is really showing some juice. BMNR is another one here that has had early interest. It kind of broke the chart again to the left, but now we've got this range. And like I said, I would love to be in on this one as well for a fresh position. I'm just trying to be patient here to see how low can we go. And right now, it's basically every 20 points at the moment, and right at the center of that range right now. So got to be patient with some of these here, and they all look a little different. They all look a little different here right now, which hadn't been the case before. We had a lot of similarities in the group, amongst its constituents, but man, it's a little all over the place at the moment. Okay, back to these charts right now. Thrust reversal right back down in the opening minutes here of this hour. Like I said, for the thrust reversal tool, it can be for short-term scalp opportunities. Like we said, this one here back to the middle. This one here back to the middle. This one here back to the middle. Obviously went outside as well. That's the best case scenario. That thrust back to the middle. It's working there now. So I mean, it can oftentimes be a very good short-term opportunity when you're range bound, where you can literally do it bar to bar. 67.60 held, but the overnight highs also held, and you see a rejection at both edges. So this is the overnight range from that high right here, and then that low right there. That's your overnight range. You come down, you take it out, then you bounce back and you take it out and you pull back, and you just barely widen the range. We're still trading just 25% of average range right now for the day in the ES. So like I said a little bit earlier, when you're that narrow of a range, you can easily go back and forth and go take out both sides of the range, because there's not that very far. And not far at all. You can get there, and we clearly lack directional conviction. Only the YM is showing some juice here. Everything else is still sideways. This one pulled back a bunch and is still kind of now in its range. So you're not really seeing the juice to continue higher. It's a trading range day. You fade the edges. Upward bias for the ES and the NQ. YM is in its own world over here. It really exploded through 47K. That's a big time push. And the daily time frame, I mean, we were looking for 600 points of range today. So we said if it gets to 8, we could be looking at 47.4. And it went right to the 8. and has already exploded to the upside. So this one literally did what we were talking about yesterday as a checkmark continuation, but has already done it tremendously in a big way. It never rejected 47s. It tried and then exploded. So what a big move. And here we are tracking through. Are we pushed through that high yet? Let's see, that high right there. 323, and today's high is 334. That's a new all-time high. We did it. Checkmark continuation. Almost 600-point day. But only this one did it. The ES has 28 total points of range. We were looking for 80. So we mentioned yesterday, if we bounce off 60, can we get 80? And that takes us to 68.40. Nope. We got 25 points of range today, right there. Oh, 28 points of range. Sorry, 25% and 28 points of range. So that is super, super tiny. But like I said, we're in the upflow. This could be a digestive day, and then tomorrow could be a tremendous outside day up in continuation. Could be a really great breakout and continuation tomorrow. If we are going to keep going sideways, then it's a 2-day trading range like this, but the failed new low is the best spot to be on that chart. The NQ, just to come back to that, for this one here, similar, not quite like YM way up there. These two had digestive days. YM had the checkmark continuation, which is what we were looking for. But they all came back to about the spot we were talking about. This one's 200. We're wondering, can we get, you know, a 500-point day today? 400-point day? What are we going to get there? And that can get us right into those highs. But again, today, lower range day, 164 points. Clear trading range day, and tomorrow outside day up. Outside day up because we're in the flow here. Order of operations will be huge. What if we get a massive rejection here tomorrow? Then it's outside day down for a double top type of play. Things are getting interesting, but still flowing to the upside for these markets. And RTY here, this one is still down because it started the day even heavier. Came all the way back to the mid. Now this is what we mentioned yesterday. Because of this day was so strong, you wouldn't want price to come back to the mid. If it came all the way back to the mid, that probably tells you the bears had the upper hand. So you have to be a bit more mindful of that. If it was going to continue higher, it probably would have been a lower overlap and a continuation to the upside. And you can see that kind of played out today where it got too deep. And yes, we've bounced, but we're not advancing. That's the range right now. This is building maybe for another day here and a continuation up. We're still pointing up. From yesterday's low, we still have the potential to go get our average weekly ranges to the upside. So things are still flowing up. It's sideways to up right now. Not bad, not bad. Looking up for Bitcoin, Ethereum, those have made big time rotations off the lows. Look at Ethereum now is up 2%. Bitcoin's up over 2% as well and driving to the upside here. Here, let's take off the paint bars. You can really see that day right there picking up for Bitcoin as we head to that 490 target, 115.490. We also have ETH working its way, failed new low right here with a great rotation up. We're looking for this market to hit 42.42, and then XRP right here. XRP looking for this thing to continue to rotate off these lows here and looking for 2.6835 as that midpoint target, and that locks in big time key ranges for us to use moving forward. Gold has found a low for the day as of right now, 300 points of range. 270% of ADR. Big time drop here for this one. And again, that's a massive range. Can we get a new key range out of it soon? If we can get a new key range, then we kind of stave off additional selling pressure and we could be range bound, and that could offer some really good fades back and forth. We'll see what we get out of gold here, but good stuff here early on. Oh, that's awesome to hear, Kevin. Great job fighting back there. Yeah, it's man, that it was very volatile early on, back and forth with that wickiness, especially like you said in the NQ. That's not very fun right there at all. But the thrust reversal you just mentioned right back down really worked out. Look at the 5-minute right here. And that reversal you mentioned, 5-minute there. Look at this one here, back down. That's not bad, especially when we're dealing with some of these fast turnarounds in the lower time frames here. I mean, these are big time back and forth patterns here. The NQ as well. Look at that, how fast some of this movement is. And so with all those herky-jerky actions, that's why we mentioned, man, the 15-minute chart was really helping. 5 has been very reactive. Faster so than the 60-minute charts because there's been so much intra-bar movement. You do like to see that right there kind of come out back toward the mid. So, yeah, not bad. Well done fighting back in. These markets right now, again, still range bound, still choppy. We have the potential to go all the way back to the lows. Here's the ES right here. It just took out the high. It has a shot to come get the low. And if it hits 67.50 to 55, there's a shot to come right back up to 90. And maybe we end the day with a 40-point range. So we have a range-bound market at the moment, especially in these two. This one obviously check mark up, and this is a wide-ranging range here. But this one, it would not surprise if we got new lows, and then if we bounce right back to new highs. Again, that's the nature. When you only have 28-point range total, and it's only 25% of ADR, you can continue to do this back and forth price action. Nuclear taking it on the chin here today. We started off with a little bit of that. We'll continue to see how much of a pullback we get there. Galaxy up pretty big today. Galaxy's in the crypto group here. Big gap up and hold. But right now, is that putting in some weird top here? That's going to be interesting. This thing's had quite the move. $8 to $46. What a move. All right, well, I am going to go ahead and leave it there for the morning. Range-bound day. Choppy price action for the ES and the NQ especially. Be cautious here. Look to fade the edges. We'll continue to likely flow to the upside, so pullbacks continue to be an opportunity here as we work our way toward our upside weekly targets for the week. So we'll continue to watch this as we head into the afternoon. Everyone have a fantastic rest of your morning, and I'll see you in the room. Take care.